Alright guys, As a Coconut here, bringing you an in-depth look into Rift runs. We're going to be running through a whole drafting session, and we're going to be talking about what cards are good, what cards might be good, what situations we would use cards in, and we're just generally going to build a deck here. So we're going to jump right in with both feet and look at our commanders. We should see one group of uncommons, one group of commons, and then one group of rares for our commander choice. It looks like we got started off with our uncommons. That group is very random. So we did start out with our uncommons. We're gonna look at the commons. The Hellkeep, 2/6/6 flying demon characters cause 0 shuffle in your deck. 6/6 for 0 can be very efficient, but then we'd have to draw into them. So Hellkeep, not too strong of a commander. Protector of the Dead, 8/8 for 3, not too strong. Commander doesn't have any special abilities that we're looking to use, so we'll keep moving on here. Luca, looks like when Luca comes into play, all our officials you currently control get +4/+4. Very, very efficient. And Genesis decks as a commander, she can be dropped out. You see her played as commander a lot in constructed, or she can be used in constructed. And then we have the Ritual Master. The Ritual Master is a very combo card with something like Devil of Despair. You can keep buffing, and then Devil eats something. We don't know if we're gonna see the Devil next turn, if we're gonna see the Devil at all, so we can't really put our eggs in that basket and kind of go on a hope. So we are gonna pick up the Luca here and start down the Genesis track. Next pickup, we see Naletta the Immortal Tinker, which is very, very strong in Genesis. And then we see the Bromwich, which can buff all of our creatures as a 10/10 for 4. Very efficient card. It is under the Flame Dawn. We don't really want to pick up Shikana here. We don't really know if we're going to have creatures to be able to sack to him. We don't know if we're going to be able to, really make effective use of him. The Unstable Bombot can be okay as removal. Just don't want to. There are stronger commanders to choose from in this pickup. So we are going to. We don't want to also be sinking our resources into a Bombot a lot of turns, so we are going to wait on that card. So the choice between Bromwich or the Tinker. Tinker allows us 2 Purity Genesis, which would give us Angelify and stuff like that, and potentially lead down to a strong artificial deck. Bromwich gives us access to Flame Dawn, which means Aspirant, which means Exhaust, which means Footman, Knights, so that sort of thing. But we really like to see double Purity Flame Dawn. We don't know if we're going to see another Flame Dawn card coming out. And we already have the Luca. Luca does really well with Genesis. So Luca kind of does the same thing as putting your eggs in one basket. You really need to get artificials for, but the artificials you can get are just very efficient. So we are going to pick up the Tinker here to start buffing up artificials. So hopefully we'll see something like a Splitter Bot next turn, or even an overloaded drone, excuse me. Ooh, okay, so here we go. We can either choose between adding on so a few weaker characters. We could choose Sleepers, Genesis. Not really. I know those are nanobots, but they don't really combine with our robots, even though they are bots, but not too well effectively. You could do an infectious zombie type deal. We don't really need the militia here. We don't want vigilance. You really want it coming out of your hand. It's not strong as commander. Death Worshipper, it could be potentially very strong. It gives us access to removal, but I think we're going to jump in with all feet into the Genesis and pick up the Constructor. Constructor is a staple in Genesis. Having the Tinker and the Constructor as commanders is a very strong Genesis lineup. So we are going to take the Constructor. Choice now here, we are going to pick up the other Constructor. We got to make sure we have a few of them in case our first Constructor goes down. None of these are very strong. Drones yet, artificials yet. The Airborne Scientists for flying can be nice later, but let's get our foundation set up first with the Constructor. Cannon Fighter can be good with the haste, but you need the Constructor. If this Constructor gets fire bolted out, we'd be in trouble. So we do need to pick up a few more of those. So we're gonna pick it up. There we go. Splitter Robot gives us a lot of value. It's a 10/10 for 4, which is already very good, and then it splits into 2 5/5s for free. So it's a very efficient card. It allows 2 for 1 a lot of stuff. It allows us to buff the tokens with Luca and give us 2 9/9s, and a 10, and, and stuff, anything like that. So we are going to pick up the Splitter Robot. Just a very, very strong card. Anti-air missile, cannon fodder, field engineer, or wealthy noble. We're not looking to keep too much stuff in the defense zone. We could potentially keep the defense zone, but we really don't really need to see the engineer yet in the deck. The cannon fodder is nice on the haste. We can buff it up. We can pump it for 0 cost. It's pretty much a free card. You are required to have a Tinker, Constructor, or Luca with the cannon fodder, which we have in all of our command zone. So we are going to pick up the cannon fodder. We're not sure we need the anti-air missile yet. It is removable, but we're going to go with creatures first. Here we are going to pick up the anti-air missile. Conscripted militia can be strong in a conscripted militia deck. This isn't a conscripted militia deck, and you're not normally going to see a lot of conscripted militias in drafting, because it requires you to start with the mindset you're building the deck around them. Soldier of Fortune, 4/4 for 1, not artificial, nothing's too special about it. We're going to pass up on him. Unending Drone is a 2/2 for 2. You're required the Constructor, the Ioletta, or the Luca. We do have them all, but it's not as strong as the cannon fodder with haste. It's definitely not strong in the anti-air missile, so we are going to take the anti-air missile here. We will see more drones later. There's more drones, but our choice here is actually going to be Vandalize. Genesis has a big problem with Wall of the Dead. They can't beat down through all the creatures in the graveyard, and so we are going to be a little bit preemptive. We're going to pick up 1 Vandalize. We're not going to pick up a second one even if we see it, just because we can start shuffling for the one. The other ones just we'll see later. There's the other Vandalize. I'm not going to pick it up. Genesis Construct, 8/8 for 3. We can buff it. We can do a lot of other stuff. So we are going to take the Genesis Construct. We already talked about Militia. We talked about the Unending Drone. So we're going to pick up the Construct. Construct, Unmanned Aerial. We like the flying, 8/10 for 5. Artificial. We can pump it up. Construct Common, more likely we're going to see that for us. And the Unmanned Aerial Destroyer does more for us than the Construct does. Even though it's a little bit higher cost, we do have the ability to get to that point in the game. So we are going to pick up Flying. Mortar Cannon's an interesting pickup. We could potentially be useful if we don't have anything else we want to sink our resources into, but mainly our resource sink is going to be playing cards from the hand and sacking them, so we're not really going to be able to play 3 every turn and do the Mortar Cannon. We could just shuffle a card out, get something else that we need. So we are going to pick up the Construct. We don't really want the Yobo, and Shrapnel Launcher is just not good. Okay, very, very interesting pick here, interesting grouping. We see these are all very can be potentially strong cards. Letter the Immortal Traveler allows us to gain tokens, which we can then use to sack. Orion Master Architect can give us tokens from the graveyard. Interdimensional Phasebot could potentially be used to end the game, but he's a little bit too high cost, a little bit too slow. We don't have ramp to get there. We don't have any way to protect ourselves yet. Control Templar Anomaly is removal. It can hit the Luca to buff our own units, so we are going to take the Control Templar Anomaly over the 3 rare. So we are going to take the uncommon. Okay, interesting choice. Shield Generator is pretty nice. It can be nice if we need to keep our guys alive, if we have a lot of small tokens. We don't have a way to have a lot of smaller tokens though. We don't have like a Landstead or anything like that, so we're gonna have to pass up on the Shield Generator. The Redaria, the Untouchable, can be effective if she's in the command slot. She's not very effective coming out of the hand. She just doesn't have enough time. If she's starting to hit by turn 3, she doesn't have the time to really get kind of buffed up, and we can do a lot of other stuff with our resources until then. So we are going to take the Control Templar Anomaly again. Just gives us a lot of effective value. It gives us a lot of options. Again, the Control Templar Anomaly gives us a lot of options: removal, buffing, all sorts of stuff. So healing, all sorts. So Control Templar Anomaly. We're going to take the Cannon Fodder here. It gives us haste, and it allows us to pump it up later, which we have the ability to do. Our commander switched around for some reason, which was weird. And the Overload Drone's nice if we can get it out turn 1, but Cannon Fodder does more for us than the drone does at this point. Splitter Robot, just too effective, 10/10 for 4, plus the 2 artificial tokens later. Zombie Gone, we're not really too worried about sleepers. We have what we need to vandalize for the sleepers, so we aren't too worried about the sleepers. Our cards all switched around on us, which is weird. Well, field engineer, we don't really have a way to keep him alive in the defense zone right now. We could buff him up, throw him back there, but that's really a waste of a sack. There's this construct is a very strong 8/8 for 3 artificial, but Splitter Robot does it better at 10/10 for 4. Plus the 2 tokens. We are going to take one last constructor, and this will be the last constructor we take. We got to make sure we have one out there at all times. It is a very big part of our strategy, so we do need it. Firebolt is removal. Wealthy Noble is ramp. We don't really quite need the ramp yet. Our curve's looking fairly good for the moment. Airborne Scientist is nice with the flying. We can sack to the flyers, but we want to make sure we have a foundation built before we start filling it. Splitter Robot, the 10/10 for 4 again is just better. Cannon Fire is nice. It's sort of removal, can potentially be used as removal. Recycle, there's nothing too big we're looking to recycle. We could recycle Luca if she dies. Could recycle a Temporal Anomaly or an Angelify if we see it later, but we don't know if we're going to get those, so we're going to pass and recycle for now. Splitter Robot again, just very strong. We're going to be taking the Splitter Robot. It is going to be a third one. Unfortunately, we won't see any more, which is very sad. Defense Golem or Overloaded Drone. Defense Golem is very nice, 0/20. We can throw it down, buff up our guys. It is fashionless. We're probably not going to see too many of these later. We will see more drones. We don't want the unending drone. We talked about like Trip Militia. So we are going to pick up the Defense Golem just for that ability to keep our guys alive. Overloaded Drone is very nice. It does have the potential to throw them out there, buff them up, put them out in the assault zone, get them really beefy for 1 cost, but the 0/20 is just more effective at this point for us. And I said we wouldn't see another one, but there's another one. We are going to pick it up. We don't need the ramp we talked about. We don't need the militia like we talked about. We don't like the drones because you need a lot of them, so we're going to pick up the golem. We're going to pick up the bad bot here because we don't like the grave rob. We don't really care what's in our opponent's graveyards. We have the ability to make bigger creatures. We have the ability to get flying, so we're not really too worried about anything sleepers might throw at us. Conscripted Militia we talked about, and then we talked about. Bad Bot allows us to throw down and sack to something. We already have plenty of constructors to work with, so we are going to pick up the Bad Bot. Choice between the Luca and the Unmanned Aerial Destroyer. Just a Scavenger also, it could potentially be nice, but not against something like a Luca and Unmanned, so it just gets outclassed. It can be very useful. We do have ways to keep it alive, throw it in the assault zone, buff it up, and then pull it back for those resources that we can use to keep our fortress alive, but we do like the Luca and the Unmanned better. Unmanned gives us flying. Luca gives us total artificial buff. We do already have Luca, even though she's unique. We could use a second one, just keep the buff going. Rift the Old World's nice. Destroy target. Luca also buffs with the anomalies before I pass on, so like she can be very, very useful in that regard. Rift of the Old World, destroy target location. We're not actually worried about too many locations here. There's nothing that stops us besides really Ruins of the Ancient Civilization, and I'm not sure anybody's ever going to draft Ruins of the Ancient Civilization. So we are going to take the Luca. Angelify, shield generator, deflect. We don't have really anything to feed to the shield generator. We can get some tokens from our splitter bots, but those are going to be big tokens. We don't want to lose them. Deflect, we could potentially pick up because we could deflect one of our strong guys on their priority, make sure they don't kill it. Shrapnel Launcher, we will talk about why it's bad. Pay 2, sacrifice an artificial character to the battlefield. Target terror in combat zone takes 4 damage. To sacrifice an artificial character, to pay resources, and sack a character for only 4 damage is not very good. So we are going to pass up on the Shrapnel Launcher. And we're going to actually take the Angelify here because it gives us flying, it gives us untouchable, and it gives us buff for 5 resources. We're short on the 5 costs, and so we are going to pick up the Angelify. So Clue Constructor, we said we weren't going to pick up another one, but when looking at these three choices, it can't hurt to have another one. We would like to see a stronger pickup here. The anti-air missile is nice. We do already have one. We could potentially pick up another one later, so we are going to pick up the Secluded Constructor here, bid the 3 in, so we won't see any more later. Cannon fodder, overloaded drone. We already have 2 cannon fodders. We could potentially pick up a drone to just kind of leave, and it'll keep getting. So drone's good for its value. It'll just continually buff itself every turn, one after the other after the other. So we like the kinetically overloaded drone. Even though cannon fodder has haste, we can put stuff to it. Kinetically over drone, we can do a little bit more with. Potentially, if we have a turn 1 drop, we can drop it on turn 1. So if we have it in the hand on turn 1, excuse me, and we already have 2 cannon fighters, so we will pick up the drone. We see cannon fire, 8 damage, can be okay. Tech Knight, we're not really looking to pull him back in the support zone to heal him, so as a 6/7 for 3. Well, potentially we might take the Tech Knight. The reason being, we can buff the Tech Knight up. Maybe, let's say we buff him up with the splitter robot, and he's now a 17/18. The Tech Knight, if he takes damage, say he takes 15 damage, he eats a Skrar, something like that, we pull him back, it heals all damage from himself, and now he can go back as an 18/18. That's potential use out of Tech Knight in this deck. Field Engineer, we could potentially buff him, a little bit waste of a sack when artificial for just 5 damage repair. We might pick him up later, but we see the Airborne Scientist with the flying, 2 cost, fits the curve, and it allows us to buff him and start beating down. So we're going to take the Airborne Scientist. Construct, Airborne Scientist, we talked about the design, we talked about the recycle. We're going to take the Construct here because it's artificial, 8/8 for 3, instead of a human flying, human 4/4 for 2 with flying. Flying isn't strong enough to really make us want it at this point. We do have the Angelify, so we're going to take the Construct. Defense Golem here. I know we said we weren't going to probably see a lot of them, but we're actually going to pick up a third. 0/20 for 3. Allows us to buff it. It can prevent flying. It allows us to keep our characters alive, which is super important. Maybe Tech Knight later if we don't see a strong pick. Say we have like a Soldier of Fortune, a Tech Knight, a Wealthy Noble, and some other random card we might, but Tech Knight just is outclassed here, so I'm going to pick up the Defense Golem. Recycle, Soldier Fortune is a very bad card. It's 4/4 for 1. We talked about the Recycle. 4/4 for 1. Pass it up pretty much every time you see it. There really shouldn't be any reason you should take it. You'll always have a better option. Conscripted Militia, we don't have more Conscripted Militia, so she's just a 6/6 for 3. Nothing we can really keep. Like, we don't have other Militia. We're not looking to pick up more Militia, so we're going to pass up. Not a card we can keep. Field Engineer. Potential get that 5 damage. We really don't have anything we want to recycle again. We do have the Angelify, which is pretty nice to recycle, but that's a very late game concept, and the Field Engineer keeps us alive, so we're going to take the Field Engineer. Oh boy. Rift the Old World, destroy target location, not really worried about the location. Brewer Keep, if they do that, we just go all in flying. If they do Ruins of the Ancient Civilization, we're in trouble, but we're not really expecting any Ruins of the Ancient Civilization. It's not a very good draft card. It's not a common draft card. You most likely won't see it, so we're not going to play around that. We don't like the Conscripted Militia, so we will take the Unending Drone just because it's an artificial and it allows us to sack. We're going to take Genesis Scavenger here. We don't have anything that we want the Cartographer to go for, so we are going to take the Scavenger. We can buff them up, send them in the assault zone, and we can just keep pulling them back every few turns, getting some good repair, so it'll keep us alive. We're going to pick up another Luca here. It will round out the Lucas. We're probably not going to pick up a fourth Luca because she's a unique character, but we are going to be looking to just play Lucas out and get her killed so we can play the next one. Assassinate is removal. We are missing removal, but we can make up for that removal with just strong, beefy characters. Cleanse the Land, we're not really worried about the location. If we were, we would have picked up a Rift of the Old World again. Cleanse Land is a very strong card if we're worried about locations, because it is only 2 costs compared to 6, but we're really not that worried. Explore, we don't have a location that we want. We pass up on we even pass up on Cartographer for that reason. We don't have a location that we're looking for. We're not gonna really pick up a location unless we see a dragon project, and then we really don't need the Explorer. So we're gonna pick up Luca again, the combat mechanic, and just for our dex energy. Well then, looks like out of 4 cards, I have 2 choices. Deflect, lowered armor cannon, easy choice here. Deflect, we can deflect on our opponent's priority. One of our big buffed up creatures. We can buff our creature up and then deflect them on our priority for the final blow. We can close with it. Lower ion cannon. It's an artifact. It's 5 cost. Pay 3 damage, deal 6. Or pay 3 to deal 6 to your opponents, but it gets exhausted for 3 turns. Just too easy for our opponent to pull back in the support zone. We're not going to see as much value of the ion cannon as we will the deflect, so we are going to take the deflect. Cannon fire, recycle. We are short on removal, so we are going to take the cannon fire. We do need to have some more removal. Removal is very important in drafting. If we can take our opponent's cards off the fields, we can do so much more. We could potentially take the recycle. There is an argument to be made for trying to recycle Angelify, but that is a late game concept, and we really don't need the late game. We have strong enough mid game that we should be fine. So we are going to take the cannon fire. Here we have the choice between a second vandalize, a recycle, a firebolt, or a tech knight. Tech Knight, we talked about earlier. We could potentially buff him up and then keep dropping him back to support zone as we need to keep healing him. Firebolt deals 4 damage. It's removal. Potentially, we can snipe out an enemy commander if it's like a constructor or anything like that. So we are going to pick up the Firebolt. We can also use it to kill any creatures that could be a problem for us, so we are going to pick up the Firebolt. Excuse me. Cannon fire and the foil, we don't really care if it's foil or not. We're just looking at cards today. If you had potentially, say that you needed that cannon fire foil for some reason, you might pick it up and buy the deck later, but that's just not a very smart move. It's going to cost you a very lot. You could probably just trade for somebody for it later. So we look at it, we're not really too worried about flying anymore. We already have 1 anti-air missile. We have a lot of ways to make creatures flying, and we have a lot of ways to bounce our enemy's flyer, our opponent's flyer. So I think the choice is going to be cannon fodder here. We don't really like to see 3 cannon fodders, but it will allow us to do a lot of stuff on the haste, a lot of stuff our opponent's not going to be expecting, and so that type of utility is very good for us. So we're going to pick up the cannon fodder. You guys can't see it, but we do have 3 0 costs over here, so our curve is a little bit skewed that you can't quite see. Kinetically overloaded drone gives us the creature that we can deal with, evens out the curve a bit. So we like that better. We talked about the Tech Knight. Anti-air missile is nice for anti-flying, but we already have anti-flying. Practically, we already have one, so we don't need a second one yet. Cannon fire, good removal. Nothing like we'll take the overloaded drone over the cannon fire. By turn 3, we can make the overloaded drone more than 8 damage, so we will take the overloaded drone. We're going to take the airborne scientist for the flying here. The field engineer is nice if we can repair the damage. We talked about the Tech Knight. We talked about the conservative militia. The foil is still not worth it for the militia. Tech Knight is an interesting option, but we really don't want to have to pull someone back to the support zone if they get weak. Normally would like to just sack a weak character and keep the train going, potentially losing a lot of damage. Could hurt us in the long run. The engineer we could buff, but it's really a waste of a buff for just 5 repair. So we're going to take the airborne scientist here for the flying pressure. We're going to take another overloaded drone as a 1 drop. Drop down, it evens out our curve a bit and allows us to do a lot in the opening hand. on turn 2 with the Tinker and stuff like that. So we're going to pick up the Overload Drone. Unmanned Aerial Destroyer here, we are going to pick up over the Mortar Cannon. Mortar Cannon can be used in the game. It can to close out, but Unmanned Aerial Destroyer can do the same thing for us, and it's flying, it's a creature, so we like that a bit better. It's artificial. The Mortar Cannon is artificial, so if we wanted to throw it out there, if we needed to, we could sack it or something like that, but we're not really looking to do that, so we are going to take the Unmanned Aerial Destroyer. Oof. Tough choice here. We have the Unmanned Aerial Destroyer or a Luca. Choice, we already have 2 other Lucas in the deck. We have 1 in the command slot, so that gives us 3 Lucas total. She's a unique character, so we can't play more out in the hand. So say we start the hand with 2 Lucas, now we're screwed. We'd have to mulligan that. So we are going to pass the Luca for the Unmanned Aerial Destroyer, mainly because we already have 3 Lucas total, and we have 3 anomalies. So we can make use of the Lucas we already got. We don't need a 4th one. Mortar Cannon just is outclassed by the Air Destroyer. We don't have any locations that we're looking to explore, so we are going to pick up the Unmanned Air Destroyer. There's that Landstead I was talking about. We could have done the Landstead Shield Generator combo. Didn't know we were going to be getting the Landstead. Never smart to put all your eggs, so if that Landstead wouldn't have come up and we had the Shield Generator, we'd be in a lot of trouble. The choice now here is between Overloaded Soldier, which is a 4/4 for 3 human. But we can buff them up by paying 2 every turn. We don't really have any strong resource sink quite yet, so that's a potential. The low orbited ion cannon, pay 3, deal 6 damage to all characters. Our opponent, 6 damage can be nice, but exhaust for 3 turns is fairly inefficient in draft. So we are going to look at the deflect and the Overload Soldier. We could potentially pick up a Landstead. Say we Landstead a Splitter robot, gives us 10 1/1s plus the 5/5 tokens. Then we drop the Luca, and then we have a lot of tokens. We have 2 tokens at 9/9, then we have 10 tokens at 5/5. So that could potentially be pretty good on the sack and stuff like that. But that's too combo-y. We really want some more effective value. Landstead's just too slow for us. We're going to pick up the deflect here because, again, we can deflect one of our big, strong, buffed up guys, keep them alive from our opponent's removal, and win the game with the deflect. So we are going to pick up the deflect. Okay, last pick here. Ooh, very, very, very nice choices. A Calamity allows us to keep the game, to secure the game, so we can remove all of our opponents' pressure, all their removal. We have a lot of haste guys coming out. We have a lot of drones that we can buff up, so Calamity is interesting. But what I'm getting all giddy about is that we got that Dragon Project. Pay for exhaust. Dragon Project becomes 35% complete. When Dragon Project is 100% complete, create a 30/30 flying unstoppable dragon, which is artificial. So we're going to pick up the Dragon Project. It gives us a lot of pressure throughout the game. It gives us in-game closing, and it outclasses the Ion Cannon and the Overloaded Soldier. Alright guys, that was our RiftRun draft for the moment. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, PM me. I am Acid Coconut in game, so I'm always happy to answer any questions you guys might have, anything like that. But for the moment, I'm signing off.